Hello and welcome to another episode of Para Talk. This week, myself, Gareth Davis, and Reeves Cook are going to be discussing EVPs, electronic voice phenomena. For those of you that are coming brand new into the world of the paranormal, EVP might not sound like anything. I mean, what does that mean? Or maybe if you just started to get into it, you might have noticed it from the myriad of paranormal TV shows that have popped up in the past 5 or 6 years, namely something like Ghost Hunters, where they use EVPs constantly. And also in Ghost Adventures, they use the EVP phenomena. Now, it might sound hokey, it might sound silly, and it might sound like a load of nonsense, but actually, there's something to this. Both myself and Reeves have tried this and got varying degrees of results. And there's one particular one that we're going to be talking about on the show today, which happened fairly recently. But before we get into all that, let me just say hi to Reeves. Hello, Reeves.
Hi, Gareth. How are you, mate?
Pretty good, pretty good. We're hanging in there and moving forward on the Paratalk. So let's talk EVPs, electronic voice phenomena. And let me just say right off the bat, wouldn't it be great that during the recording of this show we actually picked one up? But who knows? Who knows? Maybe some eagle-eared listeners out there will slap on some headphones, and who knows? Maybe they'll get some voices in the background. So first up, let's talk about EVPs. What is an EVP? Where does it come from? When did it start? Basically, what's the deal with EVPs? Reeves?
Well, EVPs, I mean, everybody knows, everybody's heard, well, anybody who watches the ghost shows on TV kind of gets a basic understanding of what EVP means, electronic voice phenomenon. But I don't think many people sort of realise how far back EVP goes and how many dedicated, serious researchers there's been in the field of EVP up to now. I think a lot of people sort of think about, when they talk about EVP, they think about they say spirit voices, but we don't really know what these voices or where these voices are coming from. I mean, the skeptics will say to you that, well, it's cross broadcast. You're catching. Right.
Actually, that the cross broadcast theory was the first when I first stumbled into EVPs. That was the first thing that kind of popped into my head. Oh, we're picking up some kind of stray signal from a radio station or something like that.
Yeah, the thing is, that I can understand. I mean, I'm quite skeptical with some theories and some, with some examples that are put forward. But I find it interesting that when people do research EVP and they get very clear, they capture very clear sounds on, as response, that it is actual responses that are aimed at their questions.
Well, you bring up a good point. Let's try and lay it out for the average listener, because we might have people listening right now that are scratching their heads thinking, what the hell are these guys talking about? Mm-hmm. So an EVP basically is recording of voices and sounds that you don't hear without listening to it back.
Yeah. If we go, let's just go right back to the beginning.
All right.
Let's go right back to the beginning and break the bones down and get the sort of the general feel for what we're talking about.
All right. Excellent.
Let's talk way back when. Let's start when the cassette first came out, the audio cassette. Now, when the audio cassette came out, a lot of people found it interesting that they could, they could record their favorite music. They could, they record themselves and their friends chatting.
Yeah.
And the radio ham people picked up on this because obviously back in the early 70s, the 60s, even back to when the actual, cassette was around and affordable, the radio ham people picked up on it that it was cool that they could record their conversations, their two-way radio conversations with people all around the world. Now, after a while, some of the radio ham people who were recording their conversations with their friends and around the world and new friends they were meeting were finding out that when they were played their recordings back, they were capturing stray voices. Now, they thought, like many would, it's cross-broadcast. It's not really anything, it's just one of those things that, and they're catching stray signals in the airways as they're having their conversation that they didn't hear at the time. But some were noticing that the actual voices that were butting in on their conversations or talking over them were actually talking about the same thing that they were talking about. So they were on topic. Now, that's where it started. That's where EVP started off. And obviously, some researchers, came into the field. I mean, you've got certain researchers that have come along and sort of taken that to one side, and you've got Carl Jung who captured sounds while he was out recording bird song, and when he got back and played his recording back, the voices were referring to what he was doing. So this is where it basically started, back sort of.
I think what you're basically describing is the popular phase of it, because I mean there were reel-to-reel recorders that people had in their possessions from the 40s or the 30s even, that people had, especially in the 50s. There was a lot of reel-to-reel.
And it wasn't really affordable.
Exactly. Yeah. The audio cassette came out, I think, around 66 or 67.
Yeah, the late 60s, yeah.
But became really super popular in like the early 70s and right up until, I don't know. The mid 90s, I guess. The audio cassette, until they started being replaced by recordable audio CDs. But yeah, no, I totally hear what you're saying. Tell us a little bit more about what the theories behind EVP. I know that there's a lot of researchers that have been, and there still are a lot of researchers that are digging into this and trying to figure it all out.
Well, the main, obviously, if you go with the mainstream, there is no question that it's voices of the dead. The dead are coming back, and they are talking onto the, well, it's not cassette tape anymore; it's digital recorders, but there's our first hurdle. If they're talking on digital recorders or cassette, it's two different mediums. You've got the digital electronic form, and you've got the cassette analog form. So there's a first hurdle. But the speculation as to what the voices could be is it could be anywhere. It's anywhere from the voices of the dead, of loved ones that have come back, to your subconscious imprinting. How can I say? It's answering the question that you want to ask
on the tape. So,
and you're imprinting it onto the recorder.
Now these see, this is a giant leap. Okay, let's just say that you're recording and you pick up some strange voices that are clearly not your own, and they're saying something that's somewhat intelligible. Now, for me, it's a huge leap to go from, oh, listen to that, that's a strange voice, to it's the voices of the dead, or to it's my subconscious imprinting on the audio recording. That's a massive leap.
Well, yes, I mean, I agree. I agree with you. You can't. You've got to be. You've got to be on the fence, and you've got to be rather skeptical. If you ever do this, and if you ever get involved with trying to capture EVP, you've got to be incredibly skeptical, because there is a giant hole that you can very quickly fall into. Once you start getting a few responses that you think are voices, you go, it's my gran, she's talking to me. This I must, and it becomes, it can be the giant ball can start rolling, and you can become so involved that all you're capturing is junk.
Right.
You've got to have some sort of protocol in place, and you've got to be able to sort of say, well, is that real or is that not real? Because the brain is the brain is wired in such a way that we can see things that aren't really there, and our brain is wired that way because of the early days when everything used to hunt us, or somebody was ready to stick something in our back and eat us for dinner. So we can very easily start to see things and hear things that aren't actually there. So it's it is a giant leap, and you've got to be very careful, because that's where a lot of people fall over. Somebody posts something on YouTube and says, "This is my gran, and listen to this EVP,"
right.
And it's been sampled, resampled, re-edited, amplified.
So let me ask you this. Let's try and think about it this way, okay? Let's try and look at it from the beginning. So let's say it's the late 60s. You got you're recording some bird song, and you let the recorder record. Then you come back later and you put your headphones on. You listen to the recording, and the bird song is there, and then you hear some voices.
The interesting thing, let me just put the interesting thing here is that if we do go back to when we're talking now, it's, back to the 60s, maybe, slightly a little bit earlier. If we go back to that era, a lot of the EVP that was captured was much clearer, and it was on using audio cassette, and it was audible to the ear. That means that there was no post processing involved. There was no amplifying the sound or the sound wave image. There was no amplifying it or adjusting it. The sound what you captured, you could audibly hear with the ear, and a lot of the EVPs sounded very much like radio broadcasts.
Yeah.
And also the voices used to talk in dual tones. They would talk in dual languages. They would sing, and they would be answering questions.
That's what I was getting at. That's where I was going to go, because if you pick up these voices and you're like playing them back, scratching your head, thinking, well, where the hell did these voices come from? Mm-hmm. So you'd start thinking of the mundane first. Well, maybe somebody was walking by, or maybe it's picking up a stray radio broadcast, and all of these logical, rational, explanations for what could be causing these voices. What kind of throws that off and makes it very, very strange is that when you ask a specific question, play the tape back and get an answer. Mm-hmm. That's when things really start to get strange. When things like that happen, you immediately rule out the cross radio broadcast.
Well, the thing is, that is. You're perfectly right. I mean, if we look at it from an incredibly logical view, if we're asking questions and we're recording, I mean, obviously, let's just skip into the types of recording. So people have sort of loaded as to what we're talking about when we're talking about recording. There's two types of recording. There's three types of recording in the simplest form, and I still think the best way of trying to capture EVP. The first way is to get I'm talking old school, old style here. I'm not talking digital. I'm leaving that to one side for a moment.
Okay.
So we're talking with a cassette, a brand new cassette, a cassette recorder, or a home hi-fi with a cassette deck. The first way is to tune between radio stations so that you've got that kind of white noise garbled static.
Yeah.
Because it is said that it is said that if it is, grandma from beyond, they haven't got voice boxes. So the only way that they can create words and create any sort of sound to manipulate and to imprint on the cassette is they need someone in this world to be able to talk, to use their sound to manipulate, to imprint sound on the tape. Now that's just a theory.
Right.
Anyway, the most basic form is to tune a radio between two stations so that you've got broadcast, garble, and then set your tape deck up, plug in a microphone, press record, ask your question, record for maybe a minute or so. Obviously, turn your microphone off when you've asked the question, record for a minute or two, and then play back your recording, and then you listen very, very carefully between the garble, between the white noise, to see if you've any responses. The second way, I'll just do two for now. The second way is to do it without the radio at all. You don't use the radio. You just use a cassette deck and a microphone, and you basically ask the question, turn the microphone off, and let the cassette record for 1 minute, maybe 2 minutes, and then play back. And then you should be able to hear, if you've got a response, the voices will pop in and pop out. Yeah. Usually preceded and exited by a click or a buzz, some sort of static noise, which is still one of the sort of trademarks of EVP, and that's how a lot of the earlier researchers did it. They did it with just a cassette recorder and a microphone.
Right.
So that's what we're doing. That's what, just lay the land for the people so they understand. Where we're going with
a lot of researchers also, like the whole ghost hunter deal, with people, because I don't know why paranormal groups have gone off the charts recently. You everyone running out, joining these groups and doing vigils and running out after dark with flashlights and recorders and magnetic anomaly devices and, all this nonsense. I mean, ultimately it proves nothing.
I agree.
They're like, you got all these TV shows with the ghost hunters and the ghost adventures. They're running around like maniacs every 2 seconds, locking themselves in these buildings. And all right, they get an EVP every once in a while. They get a little orb floating around, and it's like, whoopee, so what? It's we're getting, and they always say we're getting evidence for what? What evidence? It's bizarre, but that's besides the point. Everyone seems to be doing this right now. Mm-hmm. Everyone seems to be getting involved in this whole thing. EVPs themselves, what do they prove? What are they proving? They're proving, especially with questions. When you ask a specific question, it's proving something is going on. Something is happening.
I think but for me,
it's proving
that you're communicating with something else.
With something, but not necessarily, grandma. Not necessarily, a dead person. There's a million other things that could be happening here. But anyway, let's get back to the main deal here. So there's a number of ways you can do it with a cassette recorder or any kind of recording equipment. A lot of these ghost hunters, they go to like haunted locations or to cemeteries or graveyards with like a portable digital recorder or a portable little cassette deck. And some of them get some spectacular results.
Well, yeah, I don't. They go to the graveyards and haunted locations, and I think that's somewhat of a myth because you can get EVP anywhere. You can get EVP while you're sat in the bath, and your house doesn't need to be haunted. You can capture EVP anywhere, and anybody that says you need to go into a haunted building is talking out of their arse. So I think it gets me a bit angry when the ghost shows kind of misrepresent what EVP, how you could, where you can capture EVP. That's another thing that you just said. It has exploded and everybody's doing it, but unfortunately everybody's doing it not everybody, but a lot of people are doing it the wrong way and they're using the wrong equipment. Some people say you shouldn't use very high quality equipment because the insides of high quality equipment is too high quality and it filters out the low end noise, which is where the EVP band range is, down in the scrub, down in the right. Down in the sort of the low band area of the audio spectrum. But the thing is, I've captured EVPs. I've even captured EVPs in a recording studio. So I mean, you can't get any more expensive than that. Right. So using sort of a nearly £1,000 tape deck, and I caught 2 EVPs doing that. I mean, I've researched this. Not so much now. It's more of a hobby for me, to see what I can capture as a laugh. But I was quite into it. Sort of, 20 years ago, I was, I used to work in the music industry, so I had a lot of equipment I could use, and that's how I got into it. But the thing is, it does. You can capture EVP anywhere. You don't need to be a ghost hunter. You don't need to be, anybody that's. You just need to be. You have to have the right frame of mind. Not treat it as a joke because you are dealing with something that is unexplained and. Not that I think that the giant marshmallow man's going to come around your house and eat you. But the thing is, it's like a Ouija board. You're using a Ouija board very much like you use an EVP. You're trying to contact something, but it could be just down to a human element, or it could be something else. So you've got to treat it with a little bit of respect. Well,
let's talk a little bit about what makes it become the dead. Now, there's many reports from researchers that they have received messages from, deceased friends, relatives, people that they know that are no longer living, and when they hear the voices back, it sounds like the person who's dead, and the message is either in direct response to a question they ask, or the message is very personal, which kind of leads them to believe that these voices are from the world of the dead. there's been a number of, I say famous, maybe not famous, well, I guess, yeah, famous researchers that have dabbled in this. The first one I became aware of was Sarah Estep.
Mm-hmm.
And she started. I think she worked for UCLA or something in the early '80s. She started like an organization to explore EVPs, and I remember in the mid '90s seeing her on a television show here in the States. And I think she's dead now. Actually, she was quite old when she was back then. So maybe we'll get her on an EVP. But I remember her playing some clips which were quite staggeringly good that she'd picked up by doing these experiments. Mm-hmm. I just did a quick search right now, and she started the American Association for the American Association for Electronic Voice Phenomena. Yeah, that was her deal. Can you talk a little bit about maybe Sarah and some other prominent researchers in this field and what their results were?
Well, I mean, like yourself, I mean, it's as you just said that Sarah was a part of the American research for EVP. There is another. There's a kind of that's a giant organization. That's a huge. It's the biggest. It really. If you put that in on the internet, that's where you're going to end up. They've got groups that are basically that are all over the place doing their own research, and they call it. I don't know if they still call it. They used to call it the Big Circle, where people get together and they have these group sessions where they try to capture voices. Now, it is interesting to note that some of the members of AAEVP, they have had interesting results, because I think it was Sarah, or it might have been another member. They lost their daughter in an accident many years ago, and she wasn't into EVP at the time, the mother, but a friend said, you must come along and try to contact your daughter. She went along, and after a few visits, she got a response. And I've heard the EVP. I think you can go to their website, and if you read up at their website, you can find the EVP and the story, the account of what happened. She had a response from her daughter to say that she was okay and that she was still alive. And you can clearly hear the responses in the EVP. It's not been mangled by any with these nasty, these digital enhancers or anything. It's a clear Class A EVP. So I think that is interesting, because I mean, it's not just the EVP research. It's not just obviously based in America. It's based everywhere. You've got EVP researchers and ITC researchers, which is another form of EVP, but more visual. You've got those people in Brazil and in Mexico, and you've got obviously, you've got other people who research it, which is another poor form of EVP, which is called, the phone calls from the dead. That's another category in itself, where people have rung up and had a phone call or had an email on the computer. That's all the ITC stuff. And then you've got the British, which is, people like Raymond Cass, who was a leading EVP researcher in England, in the 60s, and he captured some amazing stuff on cassette. So I mean, let's
play some of these clips then, because I just did a search for the American Association of Electronic Voice Phenomena, and Sarah Estep has some of her examples up there, and any of our listeners can go there. Just do a search for the American Association of Electronic Voice Phenomena. But here's one right now, and I'll read a little bit what it says here. It says, the following examples have been recorded by Sarah Estep. She actually used an audio recorder with an external sound source. However, she also had great success recording in the field with little more than a simple handheld cassette recorder. Now, this is one that is a direct response to a question where Sarah asked, were you aware that I was on the porch last evening when I went out there? And this was the response she got. Now, does that sound like anything to you?
It sounds like somebody from maybe the 1930s singing.
It does sound, yeah. It is very, very. Let's play it again. very singing. But this is see, this is.
But it's interesting to note though that a lot of EVPs do get singing responses in a lot, and they've captured that for many years. Even Raymond Cascott captured a lot of singing response EVPs. That's interesting.
See, but here's what we're going to get at right now. Right now, when you listen to that clip, and I'm going to play it one more time. Now, that is plainly obvious that it sounds like a female voice that's singing.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. So there's no dispute there, okay? There's no like, oh, well, it could be static or it could be blah, 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 right? No, it's obviously a human female voice singing. No question. The big question mark comes in here where it's like, well, what is it saying or what is it singing? I mean, when I first listened to this, I have no clue.
No.
Nothing.
No.
But Sarah E-Step, I guess after hours of listening to this, thinks that the voice is saying this: I found you there. So let me play it again, and now that we've kind of planted the seed of what this thing says in everyone's head, listen to it again. I found you there. Listen.
Now I hear it, but now I've been front loaded. So
exactly, right? So now you're like, oh, now I hear it. So this would be. I mean, I'm assuming there's different classes of EVP recordings. This would be, I guess, a class where it's clearly a voice, clearly human, clearly female. But what the hell is it saying?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
And that's the same for a lot of EVPs. And the majority of them, you can hear that it's a voice, but you cannot, because they're down there in the scrub range, you know, of the audio clutter, shall we say. It's very difficult to figure out what they're saying.
Yeah. Now, I know that, you know, we're going to get into this in a little bit where we play some more clips where EVPs are, there's no ambiguity. There's no, well, what they're saying. It's completely understandable and completely clear, and there's no issue. But yeah, you're right. I think the vast majority of them are, you know, that kind of, well, what are they saying, right? What could it be? So let me just play another one here from Sarah E-Step. This one might be a little better. Now this one here, this one is, let me just read it to you. Sarah had been sitting in her office reading the night before this recording was made. She noticed a black and silver object spinning about a foot from the floor, several feet from her. It was in her view for about 2 seconds. The following morning, she asked what that object was. On the reverse side of the tape, the voice replied,
You got me there, I haven't got a clue.
Now listen to this. She asked what the object was. And this is the trippy part. On the reverse side of the tape, now this kind of gets into the whole reverse speech thing too.
Yeah, well, that's another part of EVP, reverse speech EVP, where you do a recording, you listen to it, it's just a load of nothing, and you turn it around and play it backwards, and you get certain responses, but certain words said the wrong way forwards can make a response
exactly,
and the
that's
right way backwards.
And that's what's going on here, because the first part of this recording, this part, let me play it again. Now that's Sarah E-Step's voice asking, what was that object that was down by the thing the other day? But reversed, right? Because it's on the other side of the tape, so it's coming out backwards. But then following that is a man's voice responding to that question. Now listen to the whole thing completely. All right?
Okay.
So this part right here
is the response.
That's the response. That's the EVP. Now you can tell it is kind of backwards-ish, because it is. The tape's being played backwards. but when you play it backwards, it sounds like he's saying, "We down beside you."
Well, now that you've said that, yeah, I hear it, but obviously, you know, my brain is going, yes, I'll make those words fit. So
exactly.
It could be saying that.
Yeah. But see, now we're getting this to me, when you're playing it backwards and it's on this and it's that, and it's like, dude, come on, please, enough. That sounds a little wacky. It's like you're trying to make the pieces fit the puzzle.
Yeah, that's where it becomes that's where it's like, well, you've ever been to the beach and the tide's just gone out and you go out a bit too far and you start sinking and you get stuck. That's where we are at the moment with when you start recording and playing back and trying to make your results fit the hole which you want to stick them in. That's where it becomes more of a
right.
Of a very grey area.
But see, we still come back to the main thing, though, right? Yeah, okay. What this voice is saying, we are trying to kind of make this fit our preconceptions and what it may or may not be, right? Mm-hmm. But it still doesn't change the fact that is absolutely, without question, a human male voice.
Yeah, we cannot dispute that, but there is a response there, and that's what I was saying earlier, that we shouldn't think of it as it must be Grandma from the dead, or it's, you know, Uncle George who's come back to say, yo, I'm fine. But it is more of a case of we are getting responses, but where are they coming from? Where are they manifesting from? Are they manifesting from ourselves? Are we mentally, subconsciously using our... Let's get all spiritual. If we're using our energy field to imprint a response to a question that we've not yet answered, you know, if we've not yet asked ourselves and we already know the answer, or is it more that we're communicating with something that's slightly out of our frequency range, you know, right. and you know, we kind of brushing the veil there, you know, you can speculate on that side of things forever, but we are capturing, and you're correct, people are capturing voices. Something, yes. Now,
what these voices are saying, I mean, the majority of the time, I mean, like what we just heard right now with Sarah Estep's work, the minute that I say, oh yeah, he was saying, you know, I'm down beside you, everyone's like, oh yeah. That's total. But up until that point, everyone's like, well, I have no clue what you know. It's definitely a human voice, but as to what it's saying, I mean, your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about Raymond Cass. He's the other guy that really tried to push this field forward.
Yeah, I mean, Mr. Cass, Mr. Raymond Cass. I mean, he was born in 1921 in Yorkshire, England. He got into the. He must have got it into the EVP way back. It was basically, you know, it was through a collection of personal circumstances that pushed him into the field, and he sort of his setup, his style of EVP capture was reasonably simple. It was, you know, as we explained before, it was between. Cross radio broadcast, you know, between the different stations, and using the static and the noise there to capture, you know, those voices that were coming in and coming out. And also he used the technique with just a microphone and a cassette recorder with blank tape. Obviously it was virgin blank tape, you know, it's not anything pre-recorded on it, and then it was erased. So he used that style, and he absolutely captured some incredibly you know, some incredibly fascinating responses, and he did this for over 20 years. That he was working on capturing these voices and building his library up of his evidence, shall we say? But he gave up in sort of come about 1977. He gave up with his EVP research because he found it more and more difficult to capture anything. Now. Well,
let's play a little clip of Raymond. This kind of when he's asking definite questions. This is a clip. You'll hear Raymond's voice, kind of introducing and how he would start a session of EVPs when he would start his experimentation. So have a quick listen to this, then we'll continue.
Nearly 6 o'clock on the 23rd of August, 1976, and we do invite our friends, many of our friends who have communicated before, to speak to us on this channel of communication, to speak to us, to send their messages. We shall transcribe your voices, and if they're suitable, we'll publish them. So we're very happy to receive your voices, your singing, your music, and we especially welcome Constantine Raudiva and his friend. Thank you. We'll have to decipher that. We especially...
If you notice, he got something immediately there.
Yeah, that real-time response EVP. Very rare. It's very rare to actually get a real-time response EVP. Now, his setup was basically when he used to record his sessions, he would have he'd have his radio equipment retuned between stations, but he would be in a position where one of the very few people that could capture responses coming in as he was speaking and making his requests onto tape. So that's one of the unique things about Raymond Cass is he was very very unique person in that side of things. And some people could say, well, he was faking it, he was making the voices come in, but he was witnessed many times in group sessions to have his equipment was checked and everything was checked, and he was not tampering at all. So yeah, that's one of many of the fascinating EVPs that he's captured.
Well, we got a few more here that we can kind of dig into. Let's play some more from Mr. Cass. He died in 75 or something?
I think he gave up the EVP research in 77 at the age of 56. I think he's I'm not sure if he's dead. I mean, he might be dead, but
let's find out. Let's see if we can get him. Raymond, yeah. Can you hear me? No, I'm kidding. But wouldn't that be a shock though if we played this back and he was a
so here.
I mean, who knows? But here's another little clip. You'll hear talking, and then some more EVPs. Have a listen to this.
So here it is.
You can see Buddhist by radio. You can see Buddhist by radio. You can see Buddhist by radio. You can see Buddhist by radio.
We can see Edith by radio. A remarkable statement. The voice.
Now you can hear that he kind of loops it,
mm-hmm.
And you can clearly hear this. This is one of the ones that there's no kind of, well, what are they saying?
You also hear that classic clip at that click at the beginning of the EVP.
Yes,
which is synonymous with many good quality EVPs. You've got that static click.
Oh, let's listen to it again.
You can see Buddhist by radio. You can see Buddhist by radio. You can see Buddhist by radio. You can see Buddhist.
You can hear Edith by radio.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. You do get that kind of click at the beginning there. Let's have another little listen from another one from Raymond, because he had some real good ones. Check out this one. Did you understand what they were saying?
No, I don't understand that one.
Well, let's listen again. This is I'll just play the main part here. Now, once again, clearly a human voice, clearly a female human voice.
And clearly it sounds like two voices speaking
at once.
In duality.
Yeah, so one more time and then I'll tell you what Raymond thought they were saying. What now, you're right, it does sound like there's two voices.
We are all something.
Ah, not bad. He thinks that it was saying we are international.
Okay.
So I'll play it again. Now that you've got that in your head, it'll probably pop right out at you.
Yeah, but international is broken up into sort of three.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And that's another trait of EVP, a kind of step in of each word is kind of stepped as it's being kind of splurt out, quickly.
So you're mentioning quite a few little traits of classic EVPs. So what would be the deciding factor if you got something on tape or whatever that would make you think, yep, this is for real, or no, I'm picking up blah blah blah, whatever?
Well, I think the way I use my little checklist, my little mental checklist, is to basically think, number one, can you understand it to start with? Does it stand out from the surrounding noise or the surrounding ambient noise, or depending on where you are? Number two, is it a response or is it relevant to the questions that you're asking? Remember that responses to EVPs and responses to questions that you asked don't always come in the right order. So you might ask a question, how can you see me? And then your second question might be, what's the weather like where you are? And the first question that you've asked, you might get a response to on the second question. And that's another trait of EVP, that sometimes you ask questions and they get answered in the wrong order. Right. So you have to be aware of that. And also, usually with EVP, there's usually a static click or pop, either just before or just after. It's like it's being it's like something's being inserted into the imprinted onto the recorder. They're more electronic than that's obviously where it gets the noise. Pretty much where it gets the name from, electronic voice phenomenon, because some of the voices sound very electronic. It's another trait of EVP. Some of the voices sound like tin men talking. Yeah. So I mean, it's if you go back to you can go all the way back to like Konstantin Radoval and his book and his book that he wrote. He was another well-known, obviously, EVP and ITC researcher, and he wrote a book called Breakthrough, which came with a double-sided record, of spirit voices.
Was it a flexi disc?
No, it was a proper record. It's a proper print,
like
pressed
real,
record.
Yeah, on vinyl. Yeah, because I remember those flexi disc things. Those are nightmarish to play. But yeah. So where are we? I want to play one more clip that we can try and decipher, and then I want to talk about where we are today as far as getting this either resolved, or where are we in the research as to what could be causing this, or how far along are we. So let me just play this last one so that we can take a look. Listen to it. Once again, you get that. Yeah, you're right. The classic click. Right, the click.
Yep, you get a click, and you've got some chap speaking in a. He's got an accent.
Yes,
I can definitely say that. But as to what he's saying,
see, once again, but even though we have no idea what they're saying, clearly a human male voice.
Yep,
with a little bit of an accent,
European accent,
and we get that immediately. So let me play it one more time. No clue?
It's not English. It's not English. He's speaking in a foreign accent.
Well, it does sound like that, but what it was deciphered to be saying, and obviously this could go whether or not this is in fact what he is saying. Who knows, right? But what it was deciphered as saying was, you can look at Raymond for I.
Now I'm going to hear that now, aren't I?
Yeah.
You're going to play it and I'm going to hear it.
Yes.
Okay.
Ready? All right, now you hear it.
I hear it. I hear it. But I will say it still sounds with it's said with an accent.
Yes.
And the words, the syllables of the words sound slightly broken. So it does sound, it's because it's down there in the scrub with all the other noise why it's difficult to sort of decipher what the individual, or the voice, shall we say, let's not say individual, let's just say voice, is saying. That's why it's difficult, I think.
Right. And we'll be back with part 2 of this discussion next week.